Hi, hello, salutations, and welcome to Basic Public Speaking. I'm your professor instructor for this course, Christy Thomas, and this is the video lesson for informative speaking. As always, in modules on Blackboard, you will find video lessons, PowerPoint documents, Word documents, and published for PDFs. So we're covering the gambit of ways to find this information. It's all pretty much the same. It's all coming from my textbook. It's just various forms to get said information. Now let's just talk about informative speaking. First of all, what is informative speaking? Well, informative speaking is when you are telling your audience or someone something. You're telling them a process, an idea, or you're giving new perspective, or you're highlighting information. You're just giving information. And processes, explaining processes and how to do something also falls under informative. Storytelling also falls under informative speaking. Some people will say celebratory falls under it, but I discuss celebratory as its own entity in this course. And then when you talk about informative versus persuasive, the big difference is in informative, you're just giving us the information. Persuasive is where you are trying to get your audience or whomever you are speaking to redirect their ideas, values, or beliefs along with what you are saying. And this is where a lot of your politically charged speeches come into play, because whomever is speaking wants their listeners to align with what they are saying. So if you're ever hard up and want to know more about persuasive speaking, just listen to political debates or commercials, all that. But also what falls under the persuasive world is if you think about ads and commercials where they're trying to get you to eat someplace or try a new product, that's also a form of persuasion. But we're not going to go into depth persuasion because this is about informative. And again, because I'm a big fan of reiterating information, informative is where you are just informing. You're giving information, perspective. It could be old, it could be new, it could be a highlight, it could be a different way to see the information, but you're just informing. And again, we've talked about before throughout the course is that I don't want you to think of public speaking just as a person versus a large crowd, because it's not. There's small group communication, workplace communication, online communication, and then your one-on-one, face-to-face, electronic. It runs the gambit anymore. And online public speaking has become more prevalent in the last 5-7 years, especially in the last 5. Post-pandemic world, we learned and discovered, how much technology is in our forefront. So it's becoming a rising media genre of public speaking. So another way to think of informative speaking is a reporting style. Think of it as your teacher. A teacher, a boss, a coach, an instructor, whatever the case may be here. They're informing you of what you need to know for the lesson that's being taught, the strategy being taught, the game being taught, whatever the case may be here. That's also a form of informative speaking. But we're going to break it down and talk even more about informative speaking. So let's move forward and let's talk about the different types of what different types. And by this, I mean like topics of informative. So there's objects you can talk about, and this could be abstract or concrete. Currently the 2024 Olympics is going on, so a lot of they talk about policies and stuff within the Olympics, and you're getting new perspectives. Those are objects. Also, about objects, you could be talking to someone about the history of the design of the Coca-Cola bottle, or bobby pins, or hair pins. Those are objects. I'm talking like physical objects, but also abstract objects. Informative speeches also fall under people. Now this is where it can get the line gets a little hazy with celebratory. That's why some scholars will say celebratory is part of informative, but for the purpose of this course, I separate the two. But you could be, when I say people, obviously you could be talking about the history of someone or their works. It'd be an author or an athlete, a musician, or you could be talking about films and well, that's not, I guess it does fall under people, but all of that comes into play about people. It could just be the history of them, or if it's like a musician or an actor, maybe the order of which they've released music or films, whatever the case may be here. But that's people. You can also talk about events. You can give you can talk about, oh, let me backtrack to people. When I say it crosses the line, there's a line between that and celebratory, because celebratory is a speech in which you're celebrating the person or the event. So that could be acceptance, memorial, tribute, all that falls under. So you see where I say you could be giving the history of a person, but there's a line once you cross it, it then becomes a tribute or memorial speech. So that's the line there. Now, another type of informative speeches is events. This is where you talk about past events or even possibly future events, because, again, I say that because Olympics is going on right now. We know every 4 years the Summer Olympics. The same with Winter Olympics. Perhaps you're going to be discussing the location of the next summer or the next Winter Olympics, or, you know, the next Comic-Con. But it's events. It's events previous and possibly future. You also talk about process. This is the how to build something, how to make something, how to do something, how something works. Those are processes. You do your second main speech is a how-to you discuss a how-to process. And YouTube tutorials are great examples of how-to processes. Cooking shows, how-to processes. Even the car shows, when they're like building the cars, also how-to process. It may not show you every step, but it falls under that process. But that's informative because you're telling someone how to do something. It could be you're telling someone how to bake a cupcake, or how to change a tire, or how to solve the equation, or how gravity works, or how to perfect your golf swing, how to sew a shirt, how to tie-dye a shirt, how to paint nails, how to cast the perfect line. All those are processes. There's also concepts. So this is more of a philosophical, intellectual idea. It's abstract. Concepts are abstract. This is where it talks about like fuzzy mathematics, the standard idea of beauty, you know, and how that's evolved too, you know, from ancient art to current times. And then lastly, there's issues, and these speeches are about current situations or problems, a briefing. A lot of political speeches fall into this, but you're not giving someone to a line. You're just giving the information that is out there on a law or what's going on. News reporters do this too. They have to be biased. They can't go in there with the idea to change someone's mind, but they give you. Now, some news outlets are a little bit more biased than others because of their affiliations, but in the world, they're just telling you about current situations. So that's 6 types of informative speeches. There's objects, people, events, processes, concepts, and issues. For your second main speech in this course, it's about processes, and we'll talk about that further closer to that speech. All of those are informative speeches. So there is a bevy to choose from. And when you do people, you cross the line that it could be into celebratory issues, then also can have that line of persuasive. So a lot of speeches, genres kind of go hand in hand. It just depends on how you yourself in that unique situation go forward. So whether or not it is informative, persuasive, celebratory. All right. Let's kind of break down informative speeches themselves. We talked about concepts, but informative speeches, strategies. Excuse me, I'm talking about strategies in informative speeches. Again, if you see me look off the screen, my book with all of its notes are right in front of me, so it's easier when I'm recording to have it in front of me. But I try my best not to break contact with the camera. So let's go back and let's discuss these strategies of informative. There's definition, and definition is pretty straightforward. I'm sure you have, in your educational journey, your educational path, career, have come across old textbooks that have glossaries or dictionaries themselves, or even your electronic devices. You check up a definition to a word. You can check these things out. So a definition is pretty straightforward. It is the meaning of the word. And some words have multiple meanings, you know, depending if it's a noun, adjective, adverb, whatever the case may be here. But with description, definition falls under description, but description also will invoke, when you get into description, it invokes sights, sounds, smells about an event, a process. A great way to describe that. A lot of, you know, the old adage, it tastes just like chicken. That evokes your taste buds. Or you could talk about a crisp fall day and the smell, you know, perhaps is an inside smell. Pumpkin spice, apple spice, cooked, you know, there are certain scents that are associated with fall that can evoke a strong memory or emotion. You may not like it, but it will evoke it. It's the same with Christmas. There's certain scents and sounds that are associated with Christmas or the winter holidays, and it's the same with summer. You know, you can maybe use the description of walking on a beach, and for some people that will evoke the sense of your feet in the sand or into the ocean, whatever the case may be here. So description and definition with strategies in public speaking and informative speaking can evoke emotions. And you want to, I don't say every speech has to be emotionally charged, but a lot of speeches, if you can evoke that emotion with description, it can really create a connection with your audience to your topic, if that makes sense. And they're more concrete. They're not really abstract, because you can't really discuss associations with abstracts, because abstract is just, it's just that. It's just abstract. It's whatever the person may think it be. And kind of to build on the definition portion of the description definition of informative speeches is definitions are to explain or describe the meaning of a term or a concept. So perhaps you're talking to us about concepts. You may start the speech with the technical definition and build on there. What does that mean to you? You know, and go forth. Speakers use definitions and a variety of reasons within their speeches. It adds precision and a layer of correcting to misunderstanding to clarify an idea or a term. Especially when you're going into mathematical and scientific processes and stuff, a definition will help create clarification for your audience. And if you can clarify and make things as easy on your audience, the better the connection will be. Because they're not left there going, what did they, you know, within themselves. There's also explanation when we talk about strategies. Explanation is you're positioning yourself as an educator. Now, this really comes into play when you do your second main speech in the process, because you're telling us how to do something. And explanation and demonstration, I kind of put hand in hand, because demonstration usually falls into explanation. But you think of cooking shows when they're telling you how to make something. They explain the process, and they're also quasi-demonstrating to you at the same time how to make that dish. Oh, wonderful. You know, they give you the list of ingredients, how much, when to add it, because some things you don't add till this, or you don't add till that. You only add this prior to cooking. You don't add it, you know, the host spiel. I use food a lot as examples in my speeches, So let me go ahead and apologize for my examples. Let me go ahead and apologize for that in advance. And then kind of the last tip, trick, strategy when it comes to informative speaking is narration. Narration is basically telling stories within your speeches. And that's why I have storytelling speeches. I do storytelling speeches in the purpose of this course for you to find your rhythm, to find your pace as a speaker. I give an umbrella topic and you choose, or umbrella subject, and you can pick and choose from that point on. I try to be pretty lenient in that. Like, I will give genres and I will give topic in the sense of informative, how to, celebratory, persuasive. But I don't give you a specified, you have to speak on this, you have to speak on that. I open it up to you, to what you find comfort in. So because of that, that's why I do storytelling for the narration portion of it. You're telling us stories. Think of folk artists, and there are tons of kids programming, children programming, where they're telling stories and they make those connections. It helps. Again, you're building a connection. Perhaps you're telling us a process, or you're giving an informative speech on something, and you put your personal anecdote of a story connected to it about yourself and your topic or your subject. It helps with interpretation. It helps with connection. It helps further an event. Perhaps you're talking about a music festival and you went to a music festival, or you're talking about a concert and you were actually there. So there's a connection that you can add and another layer to your speech that you can give. It's a personal perspective. Little things like that help with connection for you and your audience, and whatever the case may be. Now let's just talk about tips when it comes to informing. You want to keep it simple. What do I mean by that? If you keep your speech simple, it's going to be easier on you. You don't want to make it overcomplicated, because the more you complicate a speech, the easier it is to A, lose your audience, B, lose yourself within the speech, C, lose connection, lose the message. There's a bevy of misunderstanding that can happen if you don't keep it simple. So, simplicity. Just simplicity. Make it unique. When I say make it unique, I'm not sure. But perhaps you have run across this in your educational journey, career. You've had to give a presentation or whatever the case may be, or and everyone has the same topic or subject. It's putting a personal spin on it gives it just a little bit of bravado, flair, if you would. I'm a big fan of flair. If everyone gave a speech on how to make a peanut butter jelly sandwich, of course you're going to have the same repetitive information, but how do you make it unique? Is it the jelly that you choose? Perhaps you make your own bread. Perhaps you use a different bread. Perhaps you like to use a specific nut butter. Perhaps it's how you put it on. Like, jelly goes on one slice, peanut butter on there. Or maybe in a bowl you mix the peanut butter and jelly together before you even slather it onto the bread. Do you cut it? Is it a fun shape? Is it triangles? Do you take the crust off? Make it unique. Make it interesting. It will come across that you will hear speeches of the same topic from people. By making it unique, again, connection. And then also, they say making it relevant. Now, if you're doing a speech on something historically based, relevant, it's kind of tricky, but when I say relevant, it also helps with the connection if you can make it more relevant with your audience. So really, let's take away from this. There's multiple, there's like 6 that we talked about. There's concepts and people and events that happened and processes all that falls into informative. Some can cross the lines into other genres. And when you're doing informative speaking, you know, strategies that helps are descriptions, are definitions, is narration, examples, demonstrations. And we talk more in depth about those because, like I said, your second main speech in this course is an informative how-to upon which I require a demonstration. But it helps, and if you can think of shows and tutorials that really do that, there's a lot of tutorials out there in the world that give wonderful demonstrations. And some folks are more visual learners. Some folks are more, I can read it and understand it, but some are more, I have to see it to make the connection. And then narration, of course, just the storytelling aspect of it. And all of these things are used for clarification, simplification, and connection with informative speaking. Because again, informative speaking is, we're discussing a concept, an idea, a process. We're either reiterating information, giving new perspective, highlighting information about, again, a bevy to choose from here. People, places, things, events, concepts, ideas, processes, all that falls in underneath informative. It's a pretty big list, if you would. And then when you're doing speeches, and this is just not for informative speeches, you want to keep it simple. Simple for yourself, simple for your audience. If you overcomplicate the matter, you may get confused in execution of your speech. You may lose your audience. You may lose, and there's a bigger chance for misunderstanding if you make it more complicated than it needs to be. Along with that, keeping it simple is make it unique, give it flair, make it you. I want to see you. That's a big thing with these speeches, but especially since we're in an online technology-based forum for your speeches, make it you, give it flair. And along with that, and I want to say this, and I'll say it throughout this course, and you'll see it in multiple videos. When it comes, I talk about this a lot during the topic module and lesson plans. For you, when it comes to choosing your subject or your topic and topic purpose and thesis statement for your speeches, please, 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 keep it simple in the fact that do something you know. Pick something that brings you joy, that you have a knowledge in, that you love, that maybe it is like your hyperfixation of a hobby or extracurricular. Don't pick stuff that A, has no interest to you, because it will be excruciating for you to do the work, and then you'll lose your audience. Or don't choose anything you have no working knowledge on. You're like, oh, that sounds like a good idea. I beg you, implore you, whatever word you want to use here, in your best interest when it comes to speeches in this course, because you have multiple main speeches and storytelling speeches. Bring something that chat about something that you have a knowledge in, that brings you joy, that makes you happy, that you love, whatever the case may be here, because it's going to be easier on you. It's going to be easier on you to do the prep and to do the execution. And because you have a knowledge or a joy or a love or a passion for it, you're going to be able to really make good, strong connections within your speech. And making strong connections, A, will help in the contact, because we are an online forum. You're making contact with your camera, with your eyes. But it reflects so much in your nonverbals. Again, that is discussed throughout this course, and nonverbals is everything but the words that leave your mouth. So it's your tone and how you react and how you set up yourself and present yourself. All that is prevalent when you are talking about something you have a working knowledge of, or a joy, or a passion, or a love, or an interest in, over something you have zero desire, zero knowledge, zero anything. It's just So for yourself in this course, always pick something that you enjoy. It's going to reflect that much more when you're talking. Anyway, so to wrap up informative speaking, because I kind of went on a tangent here at the very end, informative speaking is, you're just that. It's talking to inform. You're giving us information on something or someone or someplace. It could be new information, highlighting information, clarification of information, or new perspective or new twist. That's what informative speaking is. There's a bevy of lists of what falls under when it comes to subject matter under this genre. The strategies that help within it, which are your definition, demonstration, descriptions, narration, all that are wonderful strategies in helping making a connection with your topic subject and with your audience. And remember, audiences aren't just a one person in a large crowd. It is small group, it is work group, it is one-on-one, it's electronic meeting. It follows a gambit. So that's informative speaking in a nutshell. If you have any questions or concerns or want clarification on anything or just want to chat some more about it, feel free to message me. I hope you have an amazing day and thank you all so much. Bye.